They can hear you now.
Oh, hi, everybody. All right, let's get started. Hey, everybody. I'm RJ Tallier. I am an operating partner at High Alpha, and we are a venture studio where we help individuals and entrepreneurs get startups starting up. So thrilled to meet you and tell you about my entrepreneurial journey, and also about how beauty is in the eye of the AI and in the algorithm. So just a quick little brief about High Alpha, because I didn't know what High Alpha was when I was in high school or college or even before I worked here, but we're a venture studio and we get to work with startup founders who have an idea and want to build that company. We also are a traditional venture capital firm, and we invest between $1 and $5 million in great ideas. So if you are interested in starting a company or want to do that in the future, you should check out venture studios and venture capital firms. So this is me, this is what I look like, and my job I've already told you about. So let's start at the beginning here and ask you a question, and feel free to put your answer in the chat. I'm curious about how experienced you are when it comes to artificial intelligence or AI. Oh, you need me to use headphones? Yeah, okay, you can hear me too. Let's see, we've got some 4s, all right. Got some 5s. All right, good. We've got some newbies, we've got some folks who are experts. Oh, Jaden's a 7. All right, well, when we do some surveying of individuals, we find out that people average around 1.9. They say, I'm around a 2 out of 5 when it comes to artificial intelligence. And if you take a look at the way that you're interacting with everything from Siri to your phone to other household devices, you might be actually more familiar with AI than you think. But a lot of people don't know some of the core language, like what is an algorithm. And if you're a fan of Netflix's The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, you might remember this character Titus Andromedon, who says that he tries to describe it as an algorithm, but an algorithm is actually just a sequence of well-defined instructions. And typically it's to solve a problem or to perform a computation. So an algorithm basically is some advanced math that can help us to understand things. And algorithms are at the center of AI. So if you think about artificial intelligence, there's actually 4 different ways that sometimes it's described. So AI is the field of computer science that creates intelligent machines. Then there's machine learning, which is a subset of AI that enables machines to learn from existing data and improve upon that data to make decisions or predictions. So think about, sometimes people will say AI when they really mean machine learning. Sometimes people say machine learning when they mean AI, but kind of these terms are intermixed. So don't worry about maybe saying the exact wrong thing. Deep learning is a machine learning technique in which layers of neural networks are used to process data and make decisions. I am not an expert in deep learning, but we do use deep learning in the number of technology firms that I'm working at. And then the last thing that you might be familiar with is Gen AI. So if you've heard of ChatGPT or any of the new technology that actually creates content, both images, videos, and text, that's generative AI, which is a subset of AI. So as you're thinking about AI, and when we talk about AI, we might be actually talking one of these 4 different levels of AI. So think about those as you're imagining what your future looks like. Okay, here's a little pop quiz for you. It's Monday morning, but you got a pop quiz. Would you please find the pack of puppies? Is it number 1, number 2, number 3, or number 4? Well, everybody's saying 3, which is great because you're all human. That's excellent. So what's interesting is that humans are able to quickly discern what a pack of puppies, of Dalmatian puppies, look like, and what is the difference between cookies and cream ice cream and Dalmatians. But machines, when they're using machine learning, often can't discern the difference here between puppies and cookies and cream ice cream, or things like fried chicken and labradoodles. And it's because it's not quite advanced as our eyes and our brain is in discerning these things. So as long as we're human and we can discern some of these things, we actually have a leg up on AI. And it's object recognition powered by computer vision. And we think about a human, like as we see a piece of art like this one, you might go to an art museum and be confused, which is fine, or you might feel awestruck and inspired. You might feel some sort of emotion, or maybe you're just weirded out by this. All of those are human reactions to pieces of content, whereas computer vision seeks to convert that image into a math equation. And so you think about the difference between how a human and computer sees a piece of content. That'll really help you understand what our part in artificial intelligence is, as we have that human dimension that really isn't mimicked by a computer yet. So computer vision is this giant field, and these are some slides that are borrowed from Indiana University, but they tell us that they can detect hundreds and thousands of species of animals and insects. And you can take a look at those green bounding boxes that are using computer vision and object detection to find some really, really nuanced things in those pictures. You can see a toad there and the shell and an orca that are all being identified accurately by the AI. It can also look into a crowd and see faces both in the foreground as well as in the mid and background. So these bounding boxes, or these green boxes, all recognize that there is a face in the picture. It can also use some mapping to look at objects that are in pictures and separate them from others. So you can see the two people holding hands. The guy has a backpack on, and a yellow, or the umbrella is detected as yellow. And so it can really start to make sense of these images using advanced computer vision, using multiple objects at the same time. And then going from that, you can actually take an image and then move it to a different state. So in this case, we're looking at pieces of art that are moving from art to a realistic photo, or a zebra to a horse, or taking the same photo and applying different dimensions to it to take it from one season to a next. So it's pretty interesting to see these alternate realities that can be generated through a combination of computer vision as well as some generative techniques. Computer vision has also been used to answer questions. So at the top, you can see it's asking, what is in this picture? And the computer will answer, I'm typing on a laptop computer, I'm shopping at a store, I'm eating a plate off of food with a salad and a sandwich. And then at the bottom, you can see it's actually asking questions like, what color is the light? It's red. What is the man holding? It's a phone. What color is his tie? It's black. What sport is shown? Frisbee. And again, we're seeing artificial intelligence answering these questions. And this is all the work of Dr. David Crandall at Indiana University and his crew of researchers that help us really understand the power and the capability of artificial intelligence. So one of the techniques that we talked about is computer vision. Another one is called NLP, or natural language processing. And natural language processing is this machine learning technology that gives computers the ability to interpret, manipulate, and comprehend human language. And it's really the basis of ChatGPT. So if you play around with ChatGPT or one of its similar capabilities, you'll know NLP. And then there's NLG, which is natural language generation, which is another technique which is also used. So I'm curious, again, if I'm going to ask you another little pop quiz here. Which of these words or phrases best describes the use of AI as a tool? Is it overhyped? Is it full of possibilities? Is it scary? Are we just beginning? Is it expensive? Is it just too much change? Is it biased? Is it nascent? Is it exciting? Is it one of these, or is it multiple of these? What would you say? Seen a lot of C's, a lot of B and D's, got some scariness, biased for sure. Yeah, yep, I see. Good, okay. Exciting. I see a lot of full of possibilities. I see some just beginning. Too much change, exciting. Yeah. I see, so yeah, it's interesting. Thanks everybody for answering those questions. I mean, I think, in my view, it's all of these things, which is really important, that we've got smart people like you on the line who are going to research this and take us into the next world. So, I've asked some business folks these questions, and I asked them, which of those words are the most important. And you can see the top three, 70% of people say it's full of possibility, it's just beginning and exciting. But right after, people say it's biased, scary, and overhyped. So, I mean, like anything, it has its positives and negatives. And so, as you think about artificial intelligence, it's really incumbent on you and on us to make sure that we're taking advantage of all the positives and then mitigating for all those negatives. So let's look at like non-tech people. So if you're in this class and you're involved in Next Tech, or if you're having a conversation about AI, you're probably into tech. But you think about people like my mother or people who are maybe non-tech people, ask them the same question, like, how experienced are regular people when it comes to AI? From a newbie to an expert. And I found actually very surprising that they said, hey, we're about a 2.0 on average. So they actually think that they're more invested in AI than maybe tech people are. And that's because I think they're reading a lot about it, and they're realizing that tools like Siri and others, like even a Roomba in their own house, are examples of AI in their everyday life. So if you're familiar with LinkedIn, you might know that that's a place where most people have kind of their online resume for many jobs. And as you grow in your career, you might also put your profile on LinkedIn. I saw this article where a man had created a fake LinkedIn profile he's using AI, and he actually got funding for his startup within 24 hours. Not wild? So he created a fake profile, and it said all the right things. So you can see that he said he's an AI generated white male face. He's an alum of Stripe, which is a famous financial processing engine. He's a Stanford dropout. He went through YC, which is Y Combinator, which is a famous venture firm. And he's a polymath, which is a fancy way of saying he can do lots of math. And he had VCs reach out to invest. Not wild? It's crazy. But I think that it's even more wild that you think about going to a company, like, let's say you go to this specific company, which is a real company, and you apply for a job of maybe a tier 1 support analyst. And you could create a profile to actually apply for this job, even if you weren't a real person or had a real LinkedIn profile. So I'm curious for you on the line here, which of these 4 LinkedIn profiles are fake? Anybody know which ones are fake? Got some 4s, 2s, 3s, 4, 3, 2. Anybody else care to guess which one of these are fake? Oh, everybody's going after number 4. Ooh, Grayley. Oh, Hussein. They're all fake, guys. It's a trick question. Happy Monday. It's a fake. They're all LinkedIn fake. So it's interesting. Yeah, they're all fake, which is scary because anybody could go to something like a free online AI face generator and generate a face and then use it to create one of these profiles. You could go to a ChatGPT instance and use artificial intelligence to create a resume for a tier 1 support analyst, and then use all of that information to plug into a LinkedIn summary generator, which is a tool that a lot of folks use, powered by Jasper, which is a great AI tool, and then ultimately create this entire profile and then put it into LinkedIn to potentially get a job, which also means that the job itself could be fake. And unfortunately, we've seen some examples of fake kind of catfishing on LinkedIn for fake companies, fake jobs, and fake job offers, where people are just seeking to get your social security number and also capture your personal information. So it kind of goes both ways. So it's a little bit scary when we think about the benefits and the risks. So And someone just said, how can we tell it's fake? You can't tell it's fake. And actually, we'll get into that here in just a second. All right, so let's talk about the benefits and the risks here. So when generative AI tries to create some things, it doesn't do it very well. And this is some more work from Dr. David Crandall in Indiana University exhibiting what happens when you ask a generative tool to create an airplane. You can see that it's really attempting to create an airplane, and some of the things are pretty familiar, but then others are a little scary, and of course, an airplane that we would never want to get into. And remember when we asked it to describe what was in some of the images or videos, you can see it did pretty well at the top line, but at the bottom line, it's saying that that image is a teddy bear sitting on a table next to a tree. The middle one is a spoon and a big bowl of fruit. And then the third one is a man holding a cat in his mouth. So, but what is happening here is it's using math or algorithms to attempt to describe what it's seeing in the image, and it's not perfect. So, and it probably won't ever be perfect, but it'll get better and better and better. And then the other component here is that AI is not human. And these are some real headlines from articles describing AI. And, the first one is that demonstrates that AI can actually be even deadly, in that Uber's autonomous car detected a pedestrian and chose not to stop. So there's some real risk there from a life and death situation. The second one is facial recognition is accurate if you're a white guy. And that is because many of the facial recognition technologies were developed on panels of individuals who maybe look more like me, white men. And so women and people of color are not as accurately represented, causing all sorts of issues, from a liability, from a what's good for the world, as well as from a risk profile. There's a silly one, which is Amazon's Alexa started ordering people dollhouses after hearing its name on TV in a commercial. And then kind of my favorite is this third one, which is a company called Nightscope that has these security robots that look like little machines from Star Wars, but it didn't realize that there was a fountain and it fell into it. So interesting to see some of the problems with AI that we as humans and you as those interested in technology really need to be thinking about. How do we solve for these problems? How do we create technology and AI that is fair and representative? And how do we do it now? So those are questions for us, for you, for me, for everybody. There are a number of legislation attempts out there. The European Union actually just passed their first legislation to reduce bias and attempt to provide guardrails for artificial intelligence. And it's interesting because a lot of the legislators who are involved in these are not experts in artificial intelligence. So sometimes they're overreaching, sometimes they're underreaching, and there are all sorts of attempts at limiting bias in AI, as well as other kind of negative effects of AI that are out there. And again, you are a student, you should be watching these pretty closely and seeing if you can help contact your legislators, educate them, as well as if you are interested in politics, it would be something for you to pursue, because this is going to be a debate that is ongoing. You might have heard of a tool called ZeroGPT, which was developed by actually a grad student, I believe, that was hoping to identify when ChatGPT was used in the creation of a scholarly work. So the idea is that you can copy paste content into this and then identify with some level of certainty whether or not you copied and pasted your paper or your homework from ChatGPT or one of the similar solutions. It basically is going to detect the algorithm underneath the text. And so I was playing around with that example resume that I was using before, and popped it into there. And then I actually got a score of 10.16. So this tool failed my test, basically, to say that it thinks it's human written, but in fact, I didn't change a word of it. I just used ChatGPT. So interesting for these tools that detect zero, or claim to detect zero GPT. I don't know that they're already working. Now, that's not to say that there isn't a tool that will. I imagine that they will. And oftentimes my human brain, I can read things and think, man, this seems very chat GPT driven. So I guess the question is, there's all sorts of technology out there and amazing questions that we should be answering ourselves and working on. But, the question is like, what now? So my question that I've asked all sorts of business folks is, how much of a competitive advantage does AI present to the firms that adopt now? And you can see that most people said that it's a huge, huge advantage to get ahead. And then there was a bump of people who said, man, I'm kind of in the middle, but only only one person disagreed that it wasn't an advantage. So it's interesting to take a look at what type of advantage you can get by really adopting AI now. And there are a number of different technologies and companies that I work with on a daily basis that are using AI technology. So Pillar is one within the High Alpha portfolio. You can take a look at pillar.hr. And Pillar is a company that seeks to help reduce the bias in online interviews. And they help find and source folks, but then really their core is around doing online interviews that are fair and unbiased. So take a look at Pillar.hr as an example of AI that's in the world today. It's a company that's up and running and helping solve some of the problems. The second one is Bountiful, and bountiful.us is the URL there, bountiful.us. And it's a cool company that helps, again, HR leaders to use their networks to source all sorts of candidates for individual roles. And they're using AI in a smart and fair way as well to get more and better candidates. And then the third is a company called Woven. And interestingly, Woven is a company that is doing online assessments for engineering candidates. And it was actually started by an individual technology leader who also happens to be on the autism spectrum and really was frustrated with the bias that he was seeing in the interview process that people like him were experiencing. And so their company is really advancing really quickly to solve that problem. So it's an interesting application of AI to solve one of the bias problems in AI. So I love that we can actually use AI to help solve some of its own problems. So the big question I think that we have as individuals, as technologists, as people in society is, will algorithms just take over? And, back in my day when I was in high school, you would make mixtapes for your friends. And a mixtape was not an online thing. It was actually a cassette tape that looked like this. And nowadays, if you want to, and the advantage of mixtapes is that you could share your music, let people, like you would put a song on there that maybe your friend hadn't heard. And today, Spotify actually makes those mixtapes effectively for us. And there's a set of algorithms that decide what content we'll see in even a playlist like Discover Weekly. So it's, an algorithm deciding versus a human. And again, when I was in high school, you would go to Blockbuster and you would just look through the movies to find a movie to watch, and you would. I bet there's some people on the line who remember this. You would go and you would hope that your favorite movie would be there, the newest movie. But nowadays, we know that Netflix actually just serves up the content. We often look to the top 10, or we look to a recommended movie, and it's because Netflix has all the data about what we're watching, and then it will create content that actually it predicts will work. So it's using an algorithm to kind of create content that we know that we'll already like, versus going to a Blockbuster and maybe actually finding a movie we don't like. And I don't know if you've ever gone to sometimes you just sit through the movie because you're like, I'll just sit through it, versus with Netflix, you just X out and then you get to the next movie. So it's really a question of how do we think algorithms are influencing our content consumption and influencing what we think. So I asked a set of professionals, how many years do you think it's going to be before your role is replaced completely by AI? And about 60% said my role won't be replaced, but the rest of people, 40%, believe that their role will be replaced. And it's interesting because a lot of people say it'll be replaced, or it could be changed or updated, or it'll augment. But I think that if you're a student right now, something to think about is to watch these AI trends very closely, because your work is going to be very, very different from mine. And it's, you'll probably have a full-time job in the next 4 to 8 years. It's not going to be like, 25 years that this is going to be different. So you can see that professionals now believe that 6 to 10 years, 2 to 5 years, or maybe 11 years or more, their jobs will be completely replaced or changed by AI. So, I believe that, AI and robots are here to help. And, if you ask me whose pizza I'd rather eat, would it be this robot generated pizza, or would it be this other guy who's maybe, made pizza for 40 years? I would much rather have pizza made by this guy on the right. But, it's a question of efficiency and, efficiency and profit oftentimes dictates what's going on. So, when you hear words like shop local or go to the local, go to the local place, that it really is true, because we need to be funneling investment and dollars into places where authenticity reigns. But, oftentimes profit and the AI actually can do it more efficiently. But I think that there's a combination message here that we should really investigate, where we can treat the artistry and the creativity and really the emotional pieces to the human, and then use AI to drive efficiency in the techniques that a human can't do. And really, I think it's a combination of the two when, in this example, Grandpa's Pizza adopts these AI technology to really advance the things that a human can't do. So, I think the question is, what now? I've said it through the time. One is to educate yourself. The fact that you're participating here is excellent. I would make sure that you're experimenting in AI and making sure that you're trying, that you're an early adopter in the capabilities, risks, and benefits, as well as the downfalls of artificial intelligence. So, cool, Jenna. I'm through maybe a little quickly here on this overview. I'm curious about what questions we have out there, if any.
Sure, we have tons of questions, so it's great. We ended with 6 minutes, so we have a lot of stuff. Okay, what I'm gonna do is some of.
All right. If you have a question, please pop it into the Q&A, and I will do my best to get to it. So let's see. Somebody, let's see. Okay. All right. So someone just asked, will AI develop a mind of its own and take over the world one day? That's the risk, isn't it? We've all seen the movie on Skynet or whatever the case is. And I don't know that it's going to develop a mind of its own and take over the world, but what I do know is that it can do a set of actions that could create some sort of problematic situation. So, you think about, all sorts of scary things. It can, one decision can lead to the next, and then ultimately create a really dangerous situation. So I don't know if that's going to end up taking over the world, but I do think dangerous circumstances could be developed. So thanks for the question, Ryder. Harley, you asked a question: if there is enough input in an AI, can bias be avoided? And I think that bias in AI is really an important question for everybody in the world, whether no matter what your skin tone or your gender is, it is an important problem to address, because ultimately it's unfair. And I don't think so, Harley. You asked a question like, is there enough input on AI? Can bias be avoided? And really, I don't think that it can be, because an algorithm is going to look for patterns in the data. And unless the pattern, or unless the inputs are perfect, then there will always be bias in the data. And that's the problem. And what does perfect look like? So I guess maybe the answer is yes, if we can get perfect data, but I just don't believe we can get perfect data. Angel, you asked, could AI replace coders? And the answer is yes. There's already AI, there's already ChatGPT or GPT bots that can generate code. Now, it can't create everything, and there are errors in that code. So that's a big problem to think about. But yes, it can replace coders. It already has in some cases, but again, it should be viewed as some sort of tool. This is a fun one. Are there any already AI only restaurant fast food places? I know, like, I mean, we've all been to McDonald's and we've seen those machines that like make the drinks for you. They like pop the cup down, they add the ice, they do the drink, they then they scoot it on a little conveyor belt. Like that's an example of AI at a restaurant already. But I don't think that there's any only AI restaurants to date. I've seen, actually, maybe should have included it. There's a little video of, it looks like an Asian restaurant that has several woks where the ingredients are added in and it will stir fry them up. But there always is a human there to fix things, basically, when things go awry. So I think we might see an AI only food place at some point. Let's see. Someone asked a question, can AI be used to create other jobs as well as advance current ones? And the answer is yes. So, I mean, if you think about, like, there are companies now that do AI ethics and AI ethics auditing. So yes, there's absolutely jobs that didn't exist before, which are kind of cool. And possibilities out there of jobs that I don't think we've even thought of. So I love that someone used my face as their avatar. That's great. And maybe for that AI restaurant, there would be also AI security, Harper. Let me take a look at, yeah, and I have seen those AI servers that bring you food. There's a restaurant here in Indianapolis that does bring your food via AI. So we train an AI to train AI. Are we humans training both AIs? Yes, Mason, that's a good question. And yeah, there is a little infinite loop going on there if AI trains AI. Let's see if there's any other good questions. Okay, so looks like I asked myself, how do we make sure that AI doesn't get too powerful? Well, I think that one is by asking that question. It's a great question just to generally ask. Two, there are legislative efforts. I mentioned a few of them earlier today that are attempting to put guardrails on artificial intelligence. And then I also think that so there's legislation, there's human, there's legislation to legislate it, and then there's also just humans, like us. How do we ask the right questions? How do we say, hey, that seems a little bit weird? And then also, you can either choose to invest your time or your dollars in AI-driven things or not, which is also a way to influence the future. Does NLP, let's see. Oh, Jenna, are you going in and putting those answered? That's nice. All right, let's see. How many years? So Cole, you asked a good question, which is how many years did it take you to get a job in computing? What's interesting and maybe relevant for this conversation is I have an English degree and I have a master's in creative writing. So I have a master's in English. And, my career, I thought I was going to be an English professor and ended up finding that my skills and capabilities are really, really valued in the world of technology. So for the folks who are on the line thinking, man, I don't want to be a software engineer, great, me neither. There are many, many jobs in the technology field that have nothing to do with software engineering. And you can be an English major or interested in history or communications or teaching or all sorts of things, and also have a career in technology, which is pretty fun. I have found that my background allows me to read lots of stuff about new technology. I give lots of presentations like this one, as well as I like to serve as a translator between customers who are interested in software and ultimately what the software is built to do. And so that's called product management. And then once a product is built, I'm good at product marketing, which is taking that product and then explaining it to consumers or people who will use that product. So I've worked in software for about 20 years now, but in the first year and a half, I was able to do some cool stuff immediately in the services and product marketing worlds that have nothing to do with software engineering. So again, if you're interested in technology, but not a software engineer itself, that's great. Or you can be an absolutely outstanding software engineer or technical product manager, et cetera. So kind of the world is open for all of those capabilities, and I'm proof that you can do all of it, even if you don't have that degree. Okay, so Julian, you asked a really good question. Will there be AI police? I don't know. That's a great question. I think maybe yes. Somebody's got to figure out if you're violating one of the new laws or policies. But I don't know how that will look. Great question. I don't know. That's a good one. And Michael, you asked, could everything be powered by AI in the future? I don't think everything. I think that maybe is, I guess, could it? Yes, but I think probably not. So, looks like Matthias also asked, will AI be used in a police department? For example, an AI could be driven in forensic science. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Okay, well, let's do one more question and then we can call it a session here. So Ben, you asked a question. Do you think people will eventually be comfortable enough with AI to let them do jobs that have a life or death aspect? And I think the answer is yes. And I think we can look at examples like AI, pilots in planes have autopilot that are currently driving a lot of airplanes. Now, there's a human override and there are humans there, but we're actually seeing autonomous cars and autonomous semi-trucks that transport goods throughout the country on the roads, and that certainly has a life or death aspect to it. So yes, I think that they will be, and I don't think it's eventually. I think it'll be pretty soon. So okay, well, I'll end there. Any other questions that we should answer before we wrap up?